Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
What do you do when no one else is watching? What do you do that makes you happy for no reason at all? What are you obsessed with? I'm Leslie Arfin, and I'm a writer, but I'm also a dancer, a painter, a vapor, a dollhouse enthusiast, and basically just an overall hobbyist. My podcast, Filling the Void, is all about what other people are fanatically into. We talk about hobbies, even if you don't have one.
Listen to Filling the Void on Tuesdays on the Arios Network and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.
Hi, it's Dave here. This is my wife, Cathy.
Hello.
This is the Cinemile. It's the podcast where we used to walk home from the movies back when they were open.
Yes.
And now we watch movies at home, like the rest of
Like
you.
everyone else. But there's an actual big action-packed, big star, big money movie out. New release.
Classic big star, big money movie, as it's colloquially known.
Oh, it's also known as a blockbuster. Some of you may have heard that very fancy cinematic term.
So it's Extraction. It's just been released on Netflix. It stars Chris Hemsworth. I don't really know much about this, except it looks like it's a big dumb action movie. He's a military guy.
But it's
like.
written by one of the Russo brothers, who they're the guys who made Avengers.
I thought they were the producers.
One of them wrote it.
Oh.
And the guy who directed it, don't ask me his name, was a stunt coordinator on loads of the Marvel movies.
Oh, fun.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's his directorial debut.
Usually when stunt coordinators direct movies, you get really good fight scenes.
I mean, I should hope so. And obviously he's worked with Chris Hemsworth before. So I guess they've kind of good rapport or whatever. So I hope it's good. We both love kind of have briefly seen this pop up on the Netflix and then stopped it, but we can tell that it's a big action movie with a big leading man. Seems like a bit of a throwback to some of the movies we love from the 80s. I hope it is, like the Arnie and Sylvester Stallone kind of movies.
You think you're expecting quips and one-liners and...
Yeah, because Chris Hemsworth's really funny, right? So I would presume they'd lean into that a little bit. So I hope so.
I guess.
And the Avengers, all the Marvel movies have really strong humour. So yeah, I'm hoping it's like that anyway. That's my dream. But I'm so happy that Netflix have releases. It's so funny when they made it. They probably thought it'll be a bit of a big deal, but obviously they weren't anticipating that it's actually the only blockbuster of the summer now, which is quite mad.
Yeah, their viewing figures must be through the roof.
Yeah. So at least hopefully all of you guys will have seen it for the review.
All right. So we're out for a quick walk. We can go for as many walks as we want now because we live in England, which is the only part of the UK that apparently you're allowed unlimited exercise. Very weird from the government. So we are going to go watch this movie in a bit, and then we'll check in afterwards.
Bye.
See you then.
This is an Extraction.
So who are the players?
Biggest drug lord in India versus biggest drug lord in Bangladesh.
Some mythic shit, huh?
It's a kidnapping. Drug lord's son. Clock's running at 16 hours. Proof of life as of 6 hours ago.
To survive, you do exactly as I say.
Who are you?
Name?
Obi.
Move fast, stay low.
Something's wrong. The city's on lockdown.
Yeah, no shit.
The job is fucked, Tyler.
Right, we're back. We saw Extraction. It took us a while to watch this. This is one of the this is the downside of a Netflix release. You don't just sit there and watch the thing. You pause it because someone goes up to get a cup of tea, or it's so late, so you say, "Will we just finish this tomorrow?"
And what specifically happened in this movie is that there was about half an hour in. It's not a spoiler because it's a very violent movie, but there was violence towards a kid.
Some dude just picks up a kid and chucks him off a building, and I was
Yeah.
like, oh god.
And it wasn't done in, I mean, not that could ever be done in a funny way, but it wasn't in kind of a tongue-in-cheek kind of, it was just really violent and
No.
nasty.
To answer the
and
question,
I was like, nah, I'm out.
to answer the question that Cathy sort of posed at the top half of this episode, this is not an 80s action movie with over the top comic book violence and action quips. This is hardcore ultra modern violence. If I was to describe this movie in a comparison to other movies, it reminded me of The Raid and John Wick in the way that it's got these really inventive and like kinetic action scenes in which the camera, they go out of their way, the filmmakers, to keep the camera on the action and make you feel like you're in it. And there's a particularly amazing car chase executed in the middle of this, which is one of those things that reminded me of The Raid 2, with which the behind the scenes footage of that stuff is amazing. Like there's basically they strapped cameras to stunt guys who were hanging off the side of cars, and it's doing the same in this. The camera's like jumping in and out of car windows. It's absolutely thrilling, I thought. And Chris Hemsworth and all the actors in this do like amazing fight work. I thought that the action scenes were incredible in this movie. I just really liked the movie. I thought it was didn't really like it at first. I think it both threw us as we are sort of adjusting to the tone of it.
Yeah, when
it's
we
very
came back,
serious.
because we took a few days off and came back again, and when we were like, okay, we know what we're watching now, because when it's so different from what you're expecting, it's a bit like, ooh. When we came
It's
back
very
to it,
grim. It was cynical and grim.
Do you know what I
and
think?
it was reminding us both of Rambo: Last Blood, which we watched recently,
which we didn't like.
and so it was just like we weren't in
too
the mood
much,
for that.
no.
But then when we came back to it, we knew what we were getting into.
But I
And
think,
we're-
I agree with you that, like, of course, like the action scenes were really impressive, right? They were very thrilling and impressive. I really enjoyed them, and I'm not one for long action scenes. Usually, I can, like, actually, funnily, in the Avengers and those kind of movies, I tend to get really bored with like the big set piece actions. But the hand-to-hand combat in this was brilliant.
It's incredibly
Really
well
good.
choreographed, and
But-
it goes across multiple settings.
It does.
In and out of buildings.
But that does not a movie make. And Chris Hemsworth's brilliant, and I actually think, like, I saw a lot more dramatic acting from him than I've seen before in this.
he's
But,
really
like,
good in
he's
this.
really good, but, like, I just feel like the script was so humorless, and the script was so paint by numbers. Like, I think whichever of the Russo brothers wrote this script, like, I just don't think he's a very good writer. It felt very paint by numbers. There was no depth to it. It wasn't like no one had any good lines. Like the closest thing we came to a couple of good lines were from like the little boy that Chris Hemsworth was extracting, and then I felt just so uncomfortable with the violence by the end. Like, and again, I don't mind like silly action violence, but this was just like, if you think about it, this is just like a big muscly white guy who's in Bangladesh just like mowing down people of colour, and like it was so violent, unnecessarily violent, and we're not going to go into spoiler street, but like it just felt really wrong to me. Like, I just didn't sit well with me what I was watching. Like, it just, because the violence was so realistic, and it just.
So
it was
are
just
you
grim.
are you quoting are you bringing up the sort of the white savior complex that
Not
appears
even a
in
white
lot of movies?
savior
'Cause
complex.
I didn't
It's just,
really get that.
It wasn't white savior. It was just a white brute. And Chris Hemsworth can bring any, like, can elevate any role, and like I think he was really good in it. So I enjoyed watching him, and like I felt for his character, but
The real standout
But
for
I-
me was the other
the
dude.
little but
No, and the kid is great as well.
But anyway, so yeah, overall I had misgivings, and do you know what? I really wouldn't recommend it. I don't recommend it as a movie. I think it's a total letdown given the talent involved, which is a shame because we all need. Aside from watching the action and the stunts, they're really good. I don't recommend it as a movie, and we'll speak about the end in a minute. But it was a bit tacked on, wasn't it?
Yeah,
felt like
the end wasn't great. I
No.
really disagree with you. I think this is brilliant. I
Brilliant.
don't understand how you could not.
You think this is a brilliant movie?
Yeah, I think it's great, and I think I don't really understand your issues with it. Because I actually agree with everything you say, but I don't understand. I haven't come to the same conclusion you have. Like, I agree that there's no depth to the screenplay. There's no particular sparkle to the dialogue, but that's fine. It shows a tone, which is we're going to treat this very seriously. We're going to have very elaborate action pieces, and we're going to, and I think the depth is provided by the performances of Chris Hemsworth and the boy. And but
they weren't given enough moments to shine, though. Like, I felt like the action overtook. I wanted more character stuff. I felt like the action overtook it, and I felt like it's a shame not to have had a better script, because it was a really interesting setting. And I know Netflix are in part trying to have more stuff. Like, they wanted stuff set in India, but so it's widening the net of where they're producing, which is cool. But I just feel like you can have all the good action, the good actors, and you can have a really good script. And I just think the script let it down and the story let it down.
I don't disagree with that.
Yeah.
But I think this is a
really good
visuals. I think this is a really good action movie.
Do you think it was like by the end though, like the violence? It was just so much.
No. I mean, I was just with it. It is a very violent movie, but I was prepared for that at that stage.
Well, I was prepared after our first sitting.
And really, just on a technical level, I thought it was a brilliant accomplishment. I thought it had more pathos than I had expected it to, or it had any right to. For instance, the John Wick movies I'm a huge fan of, but they're completely lacking in any emotion or pathos. This movie took a paint by numbers script. Like, it could, in the hands of a different actor and a different director, this could, like, if you put Steven Seagal in this role with a terrible director, then this would be you'd be laughing at how cliched this thing is. But Chris Hemsworth elevates it, and the boy elevates it. So I was with it. And let's talk about, in spoilers, what specifically I'm talking about. But I think this movie deserves more credit than you're giving it, and I would recommend it to anybody who's a fan of action movies. But often when you're going into action movies, it's the same old formula and the same old beats, but it's there's an ingenuity and inventiveness here, even though it reminded me of other things. So it's almost like an iterative
and I haven't seen the
improvement on a genre.
I haven't seen The Raid, but like watching it, I felt like it was a knockoff of The Raid, just from everything I've heard about it.
It's certainly reminiscent of The Raid. I think The Raid would have paved the way for this movie, but it's different. It's distinguishable enough. So
I read up a little bit on the director, because I was interested in him, and he was saying that like he hadn't even thought about Chris Hemsworth like being in it, but then Chris Hemsworth wanted to do it. He hadn't thought of his like range being of such a dark character. So I do think that
he nails it.
He is really good at it. I just wish they'd leaned into his charm a bit more, because he's such a charming leading man.
But like, I agree. We were expecting that.
Yeah.
But then it's more interesting to get that. If we got another sort of Thor or whatever guy from the Ghostbusters remake or whatever hammy nonsense he's used to giving us, like, it would have been less interesting. It would have been like, I've seen Chris Hemsworth do this, and I hadn't seen Chris Hemsworth. Well, let's get to spoiler street.
Did you not watch him when he played Kim in Home and Away? Because he had lots of devastating plots then.
No, I did. I think we were in college. I don't remember any of the plots.
But let's get to spoiler
But sorry, the other real revelation was the guy who's I can't find him in the cast here.
IMDb.
But the boy's bodyguard.
He's brilliant.
He's superb. This dude is a revelation. And the other thing that worked for me in this movie was I was invested. I was invested in all of the characters and didn't want any of them to die. And so
I mean, I should hope so. Like, that's like a basic requirement of a movie, is that you don't want your lead to die.
Yeah, Cathy, do you know how many movies don't pull that off? Do you know how hard that is? Like, how many movies have we watched where they absolutely... in fact, what was the last thing... we watched? Ford versus Ferrari. Ford versus Ferrari. I didn't give two shits about any of those people.
Yeah, that's true.
And they were real people.
Yeah.
And like that's exactly the point we were making there. That's why that screenplay didn't work for me, or those performances didn't work for me.
But
I wasn't invested. I was
invested.
invested in these
But
fake
can we
people.
get to spoiler street? Because there's a reason we were invested in the bodyguard. That's a plot point.
But before we do, why don't we say a big thank you to some of the people who are donating to our show over on our Patreon page, patreon.com/theCinemile.
Hey, so hi Simon Smith, thank you so much for being a top tier patron. Jason, also a top tier patron. Jack, a movie only patron. Tamara, top tier. And E. Mitchell, movies only. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks guys. If you want to join them in the ranks of the Cinemile High Club, all you got to do is head to patreon.com/theCinemile, and we have a bonus podcast feed there that you get access to when you sign up, and we've got about 40 episodes there ready to go.
TV reviews, film reviews, everyone gets to vote on what movies we're watching, which is really fun.
Yes.
And tonight we're actually going to watch Looper, which we're super excited
part of
by.
voted for as part of our time travel movies.
I think
theme.
Looper is better than Extraction. I'll put that out there.
Oh!
From recollection.
Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
Alright, let's go to Spoiler Street now. So, spoilers for Extraction.
So what I was saying from a script point of view, like why this movie, it was very easy to make us invested in the bodyguard, aside from the fact that he was actually a great actor.
Because he had the phone call with the kid.
They told us that if he doesn't rescue this kid, then his kid's going to get murdered.
Yeah.
I mean, immediately I want the kid rescued then, and his was so cute.
Okay, it's a cheap trick, yeah.
It's not cheap. It worked.
Well, it is a cheap trick though. It's an effective one, but
Yeah.
it's like they've given him emotional stakes. Then they give us a phone call with the kid. But the actor was brilliant.
Yeah, he's
in
awesome.
It. He was really good.
I love the bit when his nose is broken and he reset his own nose.
Oh yeah, nasty.
And his face was all puffy. Like they did I honestly think the makeup in this movie was brilliant.
It was
him.
good.
His face was all puffy and broken and battered.
It is like this, and they have this. Him and Chris Hemsworth have that amazing scene with the car chase. Then they're like
so good.
plowing each other down with trucks and stuff. Like
it was amazing.
They are and they are broken. And this is like not even halfway into the movie, so you got to watch them hobble through the rest of the movie.
That's
which
when it really
enjoyed.
kicked in for us, like that big scene with those two fighting. We were like, oh, this is awesome. Like we were just loving the action then.
It was absolutely thrilling. Every bit from when Chris Hemsworth gets the boy onwards was just fantastic.
And I think that's kind of the core difference for me, was like I loved the scenes with, say, just him and Chris Hemsworth fighting each other, or even the scene where there was a couple of them running through all the apartment blocks. It was just by the end when it was just Chris Hemsworth on a bridge, just like shooting, and on the streets just shooting anyone that moved, and everyone was just shooting everyone, and it just felt like kind of a horrible mass murder all of a sudden. Like it was too much for me. Whereas of course hand to hand stuff's really fun from two consenting fighting adults. You know what I mean? Like
consenting
it just
fighting
felt
adults.
like, I don't know, just it was too violent by the end. Like in terms of like just too much murder. Like how many people had to die to save this one kid? Like if you weighed up the benefits, didn't really seem worth it for that kid. Like,
well, what are you going to do? Let the kid die?
no, but it was like the sums didn't match up. Do you know what I mean? Like, and also like we were saying, okay, of course we didn't want the bodyguard to die because we wanted his kid to be saved.
I was really sad.
But
when
all
he
of
died.
those people that they were killing probably had kids too.
Yeah.
It just felt a bit weird. Like,
I guess they were technically just police officers being ordered
just
to
doing
do
their
something.
jobs, like.
I know that their upper management was evil, but they were
Exactly.
just being told to take down this guy. They don't know who this guy is.
Exactly.
For all they know, he's a terrorist. So yeah, it was a bit.
It was just a bit much.
It's a bit unfortunate.
But it was like the setting was really cool, like the Bangladesh setting. It looked awesome.
Yeah, let's talk about the very, very end, the bit you're talking about, where they did this stupid sort of, oh, is he actually alive? And it was just like, oh, what did you...
Yeah, we felt like, so at the very end, right, when like the kid's been rescued and like it seemed like Chris Hemsworth died, and I thought he needed to die, and I thought it was like lovely that he saw his dead son before he fell. Like he saw, because we'd seen the kid as his dead son as a blur throughout the whole movie. We finally saw the kid in focus, and then Chris Hemsworth died, and you kind of felt like they were meeting again in heaven or whatever.
Yeah.
That's what the movie was telling us. And then it cuts to like a boarding
And then
school.
they're like, oh, maybe.
Somewhere the kid who was rescued is like obviously in like a posh boarding school somewhere. It could have been America. We couldn't really tell where it was supposed to be. And then he goes for a swim in the
Could
pool.
have been Australia.
Because this movie loves water, right? So everything was revolving around water. And
I liked that the movie was trying to convey some sort of allegory with the water throughout. It had a whole story about, the kid gave him a story about when you're if you fall into a river, you only drown by letting yourself be surrounded by the water. And then there was a lot of water stuff in it. I mean, it's all a little.
It's a bit much.
It's a little surface level.
But it was cool
stuff,
at the start when we first meet Chris Hemsworth, and we really get to know Chris Hemsworth's character. I thought in a good way, where we see him just jump like off a cliff.
Yeah, I thought that was a
like,
bit
immediately
cheesy.
knew that he has like no will to live.
Yeah.
But anyway, at the very end, the kid's in like a pool, and he gets out. His head comes out of the water, and he sees a shadowy figure next to the pool, who kind of looks like Chris Hemsworth.
And he looks hopeful.
Multiple problems with this, right?
Yeah. Why
First
bother?
of all, clearly Chris Hemsworth was dead, and now they're like, oh shit, this movie's going to be a hit. We need to, because there's no other movies.
Yeah,
Maybe we need to just
smacked of that.
like make it look like Chris Hemsworth's still alive, because we've since heard like that they're making a sequel. But the other thing is, if Chris Hemsworth, if he had survived that, which is impossible because he shot through the back of the neck and fell off a bridge, why him and the kid did not bond that much? Why would he
Yeah.
8 months later or whatever it was go to that kid's boarding school and like just
to say hi.
lurk by a pool and wait for the kid to dive in and then jump out of the pool?
Yeah.
Like
Just text him.
makes no sense. Their relationship,
Hey.
as much as I enjoyed the couple of scenes they had together, and I thought it was sweet that like Chris Hemsworth said like, I am not like letting this kid die, and I'm not taking money to kill this kid, like, because at one point he basically could have made $10 million if he killed the kid.
Or David Harbour.
Yeah, so he like, I admire that, and I thought it was nice, but it wasn't that Chris and this kid bonded. It's just that Chris missed his son and felt like he wanted to do something moral with his life. It wasn't about that kid.
No, but he did. It was about that kid as well. He bonded with the kid.
A little bit, but he's not 8 months later going to that kid's boarding school and lurking around his pool. Like, let's get real.
Well, they say that people like feel like an incredibly emotional connection to people that they experience traumatic events with.
Yeah, I mean, they bonded to an extent.
But yeah, look, fine, I'm with you. The end was stupid. Like, why bother? If you're going to say he's dead, then have him be dead.
Yeah.
And don't just, why bother putting us through any of that to just unwrite
Or
it
else
3
if you want him
seconds
to be
later.
alive, like, then cut to, like, at the very end, a scene with Chris Hemsworth on his own. Like, just don't bring the kid into it. It's just like, that
Yeah.
kid's over. Like, we don't want to see him in another movie,
Do you
as
know
great
what
as he was.
Do you know what it reminds me of? Is the Marvel Cinematic Universe, which the Russos helped formed, in which
No one ever dies.
for years death doesn't matter. If you die, don't worry, you'll be back 3 movies later. So just the impact of any of that is completely lost. But they just fast track the whole thing here. Oh, don't worry about it, he died 30 seconds ago, but maybe he's alive.
The only laughs
Also,
we got
sorry,
in the
if
movie
you-
were that kid gave us a few laughs. He was sweet.
He was sweet, yeah.
Yeah.
Like, it's just like there's lovely little touches, like him playing piano on his knee when he's nervous.
Yeah, and he said my dad like just sees me as an object, not as a person.
Yeah.
What about let's
just-
talk about the baddie.
Yeah,
He was
he
great.
was okay.
ridiculous. The actor was great, but like, it's just like, sorry, you're such a baddie that you just like you just throw kids off roofs and stuff. We get it, you're evil, but
I thought- yeah, I
just
think
they
he
could have done
wasn't-
so much more with it. Like,
He was a bit two-dimensional.
Yeah.
Like they sort of elevated everyone else a bit, but he didn't. I mean, the actor was fine, but like
I loved the
didn't
bit
get
at the
much
end when the woman went to the urinal and shot him.
yeah, she
I
was
actually quite
she was
enjoyed
cool.
that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, I like the violence when like a baddie gets killed. So yeah, that was
But there's
cool.
something satisfying about.
There was also something
somebody
really
getting their
satisfying about it
comeuppance.
in the end at the bridge when not him, but like there was a load of baddies in a helicopter, and Chris Hemsworth's boss, the woman who hired him, just like shoots a bazooka at the helicopter.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Like, that stuff was really fun.
There's a lot of awesome stuff in this.
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know, I just felt really hollow after it, and like I don't know, I miss proper movies. Like, why are we stuck watching things like this in Ford versus Ferrari?
I think I would have watched and enjoyed this
I think
anyway.
if it
despite
wasn't for lockdown-
cinemas being open or not.
If it wasn't for lockdown, I wouldn't have watched it, and we wouldn't have probably done a cinema on it, I'd say. I think I wouldn't have come back to it after that initial kid being thrown off a roof scene.
Yeah, I think you only came back because you thought it would be worth doing a Cinemile
Yeah.
episode about it.
So we've
Right?
nothing else to do an episode on.
Yeah,
Any other thoughts?
not really.
Oh, yeah. There's not much to say about it. I mean, it's pretty shallow, isn't it?
But like again, it's just a ream of action movie cliches with some like unexpectedly good performances and incredible choreography and just direction.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's more than I want in an action movie. I'm totally fine with that.
And Netflix-
Because also, just to go back again to our Ford versus Ferrari review, where we said that we're okay with cliches, and I am in a sports movie. In fact, they're welcome, and it's the same in an action movie. I'm okay with a grizzled ex-military turned guy turned mercenary with a dead son. Have I seen that 1,000 times? fine, but like it's familiar territory, and sometimes that's okay because it can be used as a shorthand.
Oh, I don't mind familiar
And
territory.
Hemsworth brought it up a notch, and
Do you think he's so conspicuous? Like, he's walking around the streets of Bangladesh. He's like a 6'8" supermodel. Like, and it was
Yeah.
funny when in the scenes he was with David Harbour, who is in Stranger Things. And in Stranger Things, David Harbour, is it Harbour or Arbor?
Harbour.
He looks so massive, right? Like, he's the huge guy. But then in the scenes he's in with Chris Hemsworth here, he looks quite small.
Yeah.
Because Chris Hemsworth is so big.
I liked where that scene and plot went.
I really liked their scene together.
Yeah.
Again, it's just because there was a bit of like banter and a bit more going on, maybe. And I liked how like David Harbour like turned out to be not a baddie, but like he's like killed the kid. He's like the kid's dead anyway, so you may as well
like
kill
his
him.
motivations were logical,
Yeah.
and I didn't feel like he was evil. And when his boss, when Chris Hemsworth, mercenary boss, tells him leave the kid and go, I didn't think she was evil either. I think these are just people who have grown immune to their own humanity. I think that's what the mercenary life would do to you.
Plus, I think they were like,
And she's looking at it
he's a dead
logically.
kid walking anyway.
Yeah.
And Chris Hemsworth's like, by God,
But
he's
also,
not.
but that's an important thing is why they were all telling him to do that, because he was facing an impossible situation with impossible odds, and I thought the movie also did a really good job of expressing that. This felt like one man against a city.
Because he only had to
Like-
go something like a kilometre.
Yeah.
But we saw how in one city block what happened to him. Oh my God, and one other thing we have to talk about that we both did enjoy is the kid who the baddie kind of promoted in his ranks, and we were like, no, that kid's going to be a goodie, he's going to come good, he's going to help Chris
Yeah.
Hemsworth. Nah, that kid kills Chris Hemsworth, and I did enjoy that because
The
I
way
didn't see
that
that
paid
coming.
off was like a ridiculous coincidence, but
No, it wasn't a coincidence because he said to the guy when he cut off his own finger and gave it to him, "You let me
Yeah,
kill him."
I know.
And your man was like very conveniently watching the entire battle through a pair of binoculars. That just seemed to work.
So what?
No matter
but tell
how
me,
far away
hang
anyone
on,
is.
think it through. What? So the kid's just hanging back, watching police after police get slaughtered, and he's like, "Now's my chance."
Yeah. Because he
Here we
said
go.
he embarrassed me. It's like, oh, I'm so sorry that you went up and tried to attack like an Avenger in the middle of the street, and you're like a kid, basically.
And actually, that's another thing. This movie, which I haven't seen, it was like I never would have expected to watch a scene where Chris Hemsworth fights a lot of 10-year-olds.
Oh yeah, that was really good.
Just slaps them
and
about
he's trying
the place.
not. They're trying to kill him, and he's trying not to hurt them. That was really funny.
well done.
Yeah, that was good.
But I will say, the back to the one man and a city thing. This felt insurmountable. Like so, and I think when a movie, like often when you refer to like the 80s action movies of yore, which we love, but like there was never like you never really felt like Arnie couldn't handle what he was up against, or Sly Stallone couldn't. These were people who just felt in control of everything.
Well, it's like
And
the
I
way
felt
leading
like
men used to have to feel invincible, and now they have to feel very vulnerable.
yeah, exactly. And I think that's exactly right. And this movie very clearly makes you feel the stakes and gives you a sense of the vulnerability of Chris Hemsworth.
Like
and
when
then
he's down in the
injures him
sewers.
terribly.
It was so disgusting when he
Yeah.
was in the sewer. But one thing that annoyed us both, though, is that the movie began at the end, which is just such a boring and lame
Oh,
trick.
that's another cliche.
And it added
that-
nothing to it. Like, at the end,
Pointless.
because we'd taken a few days in between watching it, at the end when he was in the bridge, Dave was like, oh, this is the bit we saw at the start. And I was like, is it? Like, I didn't even remember them showing it to us, because
Yeah.
it was like, if you're thrown straight into the end of an action scene, like for me, I can't pay attention to it. I need to be with the action from the beginning. So to throw me in at the end was dull and made me think less of the movie before the movie
So
had even
dull.
started.
It's just such
so
a
unimaginative.
It's such a pointless construct at this stage. It's been done to death, and I wish screenwriters would stop.
Yeah.
If it's not going to add anything, then don't do it.
Don't
Just
do it.
start your story at the beginning, please.
But anyway, more movies from Chris Hemsworth. Love him.
I will say though, back to like the him against the city thing, that made me feel. I got from that feeling of like insurmountable odds. That's what I wanted from John Wick 3 and didn't get. And I'm not going to spoil John Wick 3, but the John Wick 2 ends in such a way. I'm not going to spoil that either. Ends in such a way that you think, oh my god, this is like crazy. This is him against everybody. How is he going to get out of this? John Wick 3. Plays with that for about half an hour and then is like back to normal.
Well, it's like it's often
he's
what happens with franchises.
super powered again.
Like, remember with Rocky, the way the first one, like Rocky's so down on his luck and he's so poor, and it really is like him against the machine. And then by like Rocky 3 or Rocky 4, he's like on this gilded throne, and like he's like a superstar, and he's less interesting because of it as a character.
Yeah, but Rocky 3 gives him that moment of fallibility where he's reminded.
Yeah,
of
he
that.
needed it.
He has this fall from grace.
Yeah.
And then Rocky 4, it's more about personal revenge.
Whereas Chris Hemsworth, like,
And
when he
again,
was in the
has-
sewer, come on, that was like, we could nearly smell it. Like, I felt like that was very visceral.
Yeah. So I think, like, I mean, are you more excited about this movie thinking about it now and us having talked about it?
As we're chatting about it, I'm actually remembering that there was a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, I think it deserves more credit than you're giving it. But I fair enough that you felt like you felt a bit hollow, like you say, out of
and
it.
it
It's
was very long, and like, you know, like everyone in lockdown, it's like, you know, you have a chance of escapism, and for me that's not the escapism I'm looking for right now. So
okay.
And that's the reason I wouldn't recommend it to people. But if you love action sequences, of course I recommend this movie. But we need to go.
Yeah, that was fun.
Thanks everyone for listening.
Talk to us.
Continuing to write to us. We love it.
Talk to us about Extraction at The Cinemile on Facebook, Twitter and Instagram. Email us thecinemile@gmail.com.
Or just talk to us about anything. Doesn't have to be
No,
Extraction.
talk to us about Extraction. I will accept no other subjects at this time.
Recommend movies to us because we want to watch the movies. And let us know, like, even just any good TV stuff. We just started Hollywood from Ryan Murphy on Netflix, which we're loving, and I think we might actually do a Cinemile on that because it's very cinematic. It's
And
about Hollywood, and we're desperate.
And we just finished Devs, and we're going to right now record an episode about that for our Patreon.
Yeah. So bye everyone. Thanks so much for listening, and talk to you soon.
Bye.
Are you always this brave?
I'm not brave.
You rescue people?
Sometimes. Sometimes I do other things.
Acast powers the world's best podcasts. Here's a show that we recommend.
Hey, I'm Kim Holderness.
And I'm Ben Holderness.
We host the Holderness Family Podcast every Tuesday.
You may know us from the silly videos that we make online.
Or a book about marriage called Everybody Fights.
Or as winners of season 33 of The Amazing Race.
Still can't believe that happened. Listen, we do a lot of stuff, but our podcast is our most favorite thing.
Yeah, because every week we get to sit down face to face, talk to each other about marriage, family, mental health, or just anything that we want to know more about.
Sometimes we have expert interviews, sometimes it's just us, but our goal is to bring some joy and laughter into your life every week.
Our other goal is that maybe you will learn something as well.
Right, so search the Holderness Family Podcast and check out our most recent episodes. We have one about staying organized with creators of the Home Edit.
And one about being diagnosed with ADHD as an adult.
We hope you'll join us.
Acast helps creators launch, grow, and monetize their podcasts everywhere. Acast.com.